and maybe you speak like a troll and they don't understand a word you're saying. Hey friends, I hope you're doing well. I almost started speaking in French in this video. If you don't know me yet, I'm an American that lives in France. I have a channel in French where I normally post videos. I have not been taking care of this English channel at all, but I did ask you guys on Instagram to send me your questions. I often get DMs with questions that are like so good, but it would take me literally 30 minutes to type out the whole response and like go on Google and check things. So I was like, you know what? Just send me all of your questions via DM right now and I will answer as many of them as I can with different little videos on YouTube. And that way we can share the response with everybody. If you do this, if you go on Instagram and you want to be part of this little Ask Patricia B, I'll put the hashtag up on the screen. Just put that at the bottom of your message and then I'll know that I can respond to you in video. And keep in mind that I'm much more likely to respond to long messages via video format because it's much easier for me. And then if somebody else asks the same question later on, I can just be like, oh hey, I have a video on that. Here we go. Hey Patricia, I am passionate about medicine. That's not the one. That's not the one. Where did my message go? Gone now. That's great. There it is. There's the question. All right. Hey Patricia, this is not, when I click on the question, it opens a different photo. That's so weird. That's my problem. Oh, okay. Sorry, let's cut all that out. I'm going to be studying abroad next year in France and then in Russia because I'm a dual French and Russian major at my university. What was the hardest thing about studying abroad? What helped you adjust to being out of the United States? I would also love to hear any tips you have for studying abroad or living abroad in general. Well, I'm gonna try and do that more often on this channel. I'm gonna try and be better about doing more videos because I have a lot of things to say. I feel like I've adapted pretty well. I mean, I married a French man. I have children that I take to school in French. I did the study abroad thing. I've worked in France. I have quite a bit of experience, so if I can give you any tips that might make it easier, I'm going to be trying to think of videos about that. If you have any questions, also anyone who's watching this video, please leave them in the comments down below. I'll try and respond to as many as I can, just, typing it out quickly, but I'm also going to try and use some of them and turn them into content so that we can help everybody who's looking to study abroad. I got really lucky. I was about to say I got really yucky. Got really lucky. My university was the University of Utah, and they had like a day program. It was only a couple hours long, where before we left for our study abroad program, we had to attend this like seminar type thing, and they talked about culture shock and reverse culture shock when you come home and how best to handle that and what you should do in case of an emergency. And it was so helpful. I don't know if every university does that, but my university did, and I am really grateful. I had a very smooth year. For me, the hardest part was definitely the language. I spoke French very poorly. I thought I was doing a pretty good job when I was back at home because, my second year of university French, I had all A's. I was one of the best in my class. And then I got to France and was like, oh poop, this is not the language I learned at university. This is way more complicated. And I recently found out that one of my husband's friends, Ben, who has known me since like my first month here in France, he's known me for a very long time. In their inner circle, they refer to me as the reference when people are trying to learn a new language. Well, if Patricia can learn French, then you guys can learn anything. Because if you compare my initial level of French with my current level of French, it's quite a jump. I really wish I'd been making videos back then because it would be so funny to watch now and to see how it's developed. Oh my goodness. It was pretty bad. You should look up before you go what the different stages of culture shock are, just because I think it's a phenomenon that if you haven't heard of it before, or if you're just thinking, oh, I might go to France and it'll be a little bit difficult, but I'll get over it, you're probably better off just knowing from the get-go, oh, here are the psychological steps, because it's an actual process. Just like there's the process of grieving, there's a process of culture shock. And then when you're done with your study abroad program, a lot of people have reverse culture shock when they come home. And it's really nice to know that it's very temporary. I think when I was studying abroad, that's what helped me the most. Whenever I was frustrated with something, I would just be like, you know what, I only have to put up with this for 9 months and then I'm gonna go back home to America. So I'm just gonna have as much fun as I can, and if something's frustrating, I'm just going to laugh it off because I'm leaving soon anyways. Everyone who knows my story now knows that I'm here, so I wasn't really going home. But the mentality of taking things one day at a time definitely was helpful when there were very frustrating moments, or when I was feeling like I couldn't communicate, or when I was having problems with the administration, because administration and government tasks in your own home country can be kind of intimidating. But when you're trying to do them all in a different language, and it's going to cost you money, and you have no idea what the person in front of you is saying, and they need to know the answer, it's just so headache inducing. So one day at a time, you can do this. If I have learned French, you can learn whatever language you're trying to learn. Apparently, I'm the reference for when you speak a language terribly in the beginning and you can get over that hurdle. I think anybody who's looking to live or study abroad knows this, but being open-minded is very important and not trying to push your ideals on a whole different country. Usually countries do the things they do for a reason. So even if it really bothers you, there's probably a reason, like structurally, that it's set up that way. You coming over as a study abroad student are not going to suddenly revolutionize all of France, or in her case, maybe Russia or Japan or wherever you're going to study abroad with your great American idea that they would never have thought of. No, they've probably tested it out. They've probably considered it. People have been traveling back and forth between different countries for years. Usually, if they don't do things the way you want them to do them in a certain country, there's a reason. Sometimes costs are prohibitive. Sometimes it's just a question of, ooh, I got a message from Laura. Laura R is a YouTuber in France that I just love. She's one of my favorites. She's probably the YouTuber, her and Alyssa, that I like confide in the most. If I'm having any troubles, I'll go talk to them and be like, oh, yeah. So I'll put a link down for her channel below because she is awesome. So if you're learning French, she speaks better French than me because she is French. So go check out her channel. What did Laura say? Oh, it's a voice message. I'll look at it later. The hardest part about studying abroad, I would say there's also a lot of people that were in my year, not necessarily me, but were in my year that had a really hard time just with homesickness in general and wanting to go back and missing their family and things. We are so lucky that we live during a period of time when we have incredible means of technology to communicate with people. Go ahead and start a blog, talk to your family, keep in touch, but make sure to avoid the loneliness, you start making friends where you are planted. Even though it's really hard and really awkward at first, and maybe you speak like a troll and they don't understand a word you're saying, but it is so much better in the long term if you work on building ties in the country where you're at. That'll also help you later on in life because you never know where you're going to end up. I did not know until oh, there's a fly in my house. Dear. I did not know I was going to end up living in France until the end of my study abroad year. But luckily, I had been weaving connections and links with people the whole time so that when I did come back after I finished my studies, when I came back to marry my husband, there were people I knew. I didn't feel like I was coming back into just this like big void of loneliness. Something that is also really hard for me personally is I've always been the type of girl that has lots of girlfriends. I love having friends. I like having people over. I love having like my close-knit group of girlfriends, but that has been really hard to construct while living abroad. I think it's hard when you're an adult in general to construct this group of friends, but trying to go across cultural boundaries and trying also different languages and everything, it was really hard. Now that I have 2 kids in the mix, that is way harder just because I'm always with them. Right now, their lovely grandmother here in France is taking care of them. That's how I'm able to film you this video. But making friends for me was probably also one of the hardest things to do. And you have to remember though, like the person you met 3 weeks ago that you're starting to build a friendship with, it's completely normal that you're not as close to them as you are your friends from back home that you've been friends with for like 10, 15 years. Building friendships takes time. Different cultures have different like barriers into friendship. It'll probably be hard at first. I made a whole video about making friends abroad. Did I do that in English or French? I will put you the link down below. Hopefully it's in English. I'm pretty sure it's in English, not 100%. Please leave any questions you have specifically about adapting to living abroad down in the comments below. I would love to respond to you. I'm so excited for your trip. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell because if you don't, then you might miss out on videos because I am not consistent at all with this channel, but I will be having more videos coming out soon. I'm going to be filming several today, so hopefully we will see each other soon. Ciao!